So in this class, we are doing dedicated personal statements, session number 3. Just as a brief reminder, what we talked about in the first session, let me kind of go ahead here. So in the first session, we talked about following the directions. We said it's very important that you actually answer the question that's being asked. In the second class, which we had last week, we talked about the importance of organization, organizing your composition, which we will experiment with a little bit in this class. The main meat of this class is going to be the idea of being honest and being vulnerable. Number 4, which means next class, we're going to talk about it's not really about you. And then the 5th class is utilizing powerful writing techniques. And then finally, the 6th class is going to be proofread, proofread, proofread. Okay, sound good, everybody? So like I said, in the last class, we talked about organizing your composition. And we had kind of this metaphor of bowls of fruit. Do you guys remember how I organized this? So you have to have some kind of thesis, some kind of argument, or some kind of thing that you're trying to say. And the thesis, is it in one location of your personal statement or your composition, or is it infused throughout? It's infused throughout, right? You can't you can't neglect your thesis, right? So one thesis I gave was that snacks can be healthy. So that was the thesis. Hey, snacks don't have to be unhealthy, they can be healthy. And so one of the paragraphs would focus on apricots. One of the paragraphs would focus on raisins or currants, I'm not sure. One of the paragraphs would focus on cranberries, and then one of the paragraphs would focus on strawberries. And then I also told you it's important that these paragraphs be linked in some way. And in this case, how are they linked? They're linked in two ways. Number one, they're all fruits, right? Does everyone agree that these are fruits? Right? That's a fruit, that's a fruit, that's a fruit, that's a fruit. And then you can also link it in terms of its dryness content. So body paragraph 1 would be a dry fruit, body paragraph 2 would be a dry fruit, body paragraph 3 would be a dry fruit, and then finally paragraph 4 would say, however, it's not only the dry fruits that are healthy, you could also have something like a strawberry, which is healthy, etc., etc. So that is just kind of a stupid example of how you would organize this essay right here involving fruits. So let's do a quick recap. What is the thesis? Snacks can be what? They can be healthy. What is the organization? Body paragraph 1, cranberries. Body paragraph 2, raisins. Body paragraph 3, apricots. Body paragraph 4, strawberries. What links the paragraphs together? Number 1, they're all fruits. Number 2, 3 of them are dry, 1 of them is wet. Make sense, everybody? Any questions about this? No? Okay. So we're going to give you guys an opportunity to practice this. So the importance of organization. Number 1, identify your thesis. Number 2, identify the paragraph topics. Number 3, identify paragraph links. All right, let's try this out. So this is a prompt that we did not get to in the previous class. So it was actually prompt number 4. If you guys remember, we only talked about 3 prompts. So what I want you to do is I want you to organize this. So here's the prompt. Explain what unique values and perspectives you will bring to the program. Cool? I'll give you guys 4 minutes. Think about how you would organize this. Let me get my timer. Okay, can everyone see my timer? Okay, 4 minutes, guys. Okay. Can I have a volunteer? How would you organize this? Don't be shy. All right. Looks like a lot of you guys are shy, huh? Shy about your personal statements? All right, so we would need to have a thesis, in which case the thesis here is pretty straightforward. Is I'm unique or I'm not unique? Yeah, I'm unique. You're not going to say I'm not unique. So the thesis would be I am unique in some way. But that's the easy part. The more difficult part is how are you going to organize the paragraphs? So this class only works if you guys volunteer your perspectives, or it's just me talking to myself for an hour. Hey, Lena, how you doing?
Hey, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
So,
Um,
are you a unique individual?
yeah, I raised my hand because I do have a paper that's exactly like this I wrote. It
Okay.
says, so I started out with my first day in American elementary school and how with an anecdote and said that my parents were worried and they were waiting outside the parking lot and I came out saying hi and I said my dad's name,
Mm-hmm.
which is in English. So that's the story that they knew I'll be fine in American school. I started that way to
Okay,
tell
so
them,
that's kind of like your hook, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's kind of your hook. How would you, which is not bad, I'm not saying it's bad. I guess the more important question, though, is how would you organize the paragraphs? So after the hook, you have to talk about your values and perspectives, right?
yeah. So and then the second paragraph is I moved back, but I came back this time. Second time I moved back alone to study abroad without my parents. So so like I'm kind of like saying um what is it like living alone and taking
So you have like an independent perspective, is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay, so kind of an independence perspective.
right.
All right,
um
because you had to live alone and not many people do that, right?
right. And then how and then being in school as a well there were some I'm Korean, there were some Koreans there, but still like it made me realize I'm like representing my country without like I said something like their unaware curiosity about Korea. I felt like I was always representing that. And then third paragraph, and then I say that's why I always wanted to be a diplomat.
So none of what you're saying is bad. I'm not judging you for anything you're saying whatsoever. It all sounds great.
Yeah,
Is it organized?
yeah.
Are,
So I
are
thought,
you saying like value number one, perspective number one, perspective number two, value number two?
yeah.
So it sounds to me more like a narrative, which is not bad, but I guess is that what the question's asking?
So too much of the uh narratives there, huh? Like
Yes,
I
I think so. I don't think there's enough organization. So, like, for example, your second body paragraph or your first body paragraph would be listen, I grew up alone, or at least for a large chunk of my childhood, I was alone. That gives me a very independent and unique perspective on life because I had to filter things through my own lens, not through the lens of my parents. So, that would
yeah,
be like body paragraph number one. Body paragraph number two would either be a value or a perspective. Maybe one of those values would be maintaining a tie to my cultural homeland. One of my values is Korean pride. You know, I'm a big believer in maintaining a connection to where my ancestors come from. So, despite the fact that I live in a different country, grew up in a different country, that is not a value that I'm going to easily sever.
yeah.
Okay, so that could be body paragraph number two. And then body paragraph number three could either be another one of your values or another one of your perspectives. Do you see how I'm focusing very specifically on the prompt here?
Yeah.
So let's just like be honest. What is a value you have? So we know that Korean culture is important to you. That's a value, right?
Yeah.
What's
And then
another value that you have?
that tying all this together, I wanted to study law is because I want to work for countervailing duties and anti-dumping kind of lawsuits against Korean companies.
Again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Is
Yeah.
that a value?
So helping Korea, yeah.
Okay, but we already said that, right? We said maintaining a tie to our Korean homeland, right?
Thing? Okay.
Yeah, so none of what you're saying is bad. I'm just saying it's not organized, right?
Okay.
So yes, it is true that you want to be a lawyer. It is true that you want to, help out Koreans and stuff like that. But you have to frame it in the context of a value and a perspective. Does that make sense?
Yep. But for example, what are perspectives then? What are the
Just
examples?
viewpoints. So, for example, your viewpoint as growing up alone or large chunks of your life alone, it's going to give you a very different viewpoint on life than somebody who grew up with their parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be one perspective. One of your values is the value of maintaining a tie to your cultural homeland, even if you're not physically there. That's a value. So, for example, my ancestors, I believe, come from England. Do I maintain any kind of connection to England?
You tell.
No.
You don't.
So that's not really a value that's important to me, right? But that's a value that's important to you. So what is another value that's important to you?
I should think about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not easy. So I'm not trying to criticize your essay or criticize what you're saying or say what you're saying is bad. It's all good stuff. You just have to frame it in the context of a value and a perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what if I just have two values?
Then
and
you
I-
just have to develop that. That's all. Yeah, it's no problem. There's no rule that says you have to have 5 values here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So like what is one of my values? Do I believe education should be affordable or education should be expensive?
Affordable.
Yeah, so I would have an entire paragraph about that, for example.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
not too much. Yeah, I want to focus. So not.
I
too
think you're in a hurry to tell your story, your narrative, but you just have to ask yourself, is that what the question's asking you to do?
Yeah, it's actually a diversity essay. But
Yeah, so you just have to be careful. I'm not saying your essay is different than this one or the same as this one. I'm just saying make sure you're following the prompt as much as possible. Cool?
Cool. Thanks.
All right, thank you for volunteering, by the way. Let's go to Sally. Hey, Sally.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So with this, the two things that I was thinking about. So with perspectives, I want to do a master's in finance. So, I think one of the perspectives I could, the unique perspective I would bring to the program would be, the perspective of an African from a developing country with a growing financial system. So
Perfect. Yeah, don't over-explain. Remember, because we're not writing right now. We're not
Yeah.
writing. Okay. Perfect. I come from a developing African country. Not many students in your MBA program do.
yeah,
That is a unique perspective, is it not?
yeah,
I mean, imagine if I said, I come from California. That is my unique perspective. That's not a very unique perspective, right? Because probably in that MBA program, you have a fair number of people from California, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so definitely, I think there should definitely be a paragraph about growing up in a African country with a developing economy. Perfect. Okay, next paragraph.
So I was also thinking with regards to unique values, I'm not really sure if like there should be a way to frame it as a value, but then being open-minded and staying curious.
Yeah, generic. Everyone's open-minded. Everyone's curious. Especially, no one's going to say they're not open-minded. No one's going to say they're not curious.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely work on that one. What is one of your unique values? You know, something that separates you from the pack.
I would have to think about that a little bit because like almost everything values are hard. Like a lot of people have similar values. So
That is true. I mean, I'm not trying to say something that's like one in a million, But when it comes to like, I'm curious and open-minded, that's just
Yeah.
going to come across as a little bit too cliche and a little bit too generic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get you.
So just think about it. Just think about it. I do think the body paragraph about growing up in an African country, I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Does anyone else want to give this a shot before we move on to prompt number 2? Going once. Going twice. Oh, Jacqueline. Hey, Jacqueline. How's it going?
Hello. This is more of a question.
Sure.
For the perspective, could you write a paragraph on your work experience?
I wouldn't.
So I'm also doing a law degree like Luna. So I wrote down, just in a paragraph address how I've been passionate about the law for years now and how that's reflected in my work, extracurriculars, research interest in undergrad, etc.
So you'd have to be careful there because many people are going to say they're passionate about the law, right? But
Yeah.
here's the but. There's a difference between saying I'm passionate about the law and then backing it up with evidence, and then saying I'm passionate about the law and I've always been that way. So if you were able to actually back up that you're passionate about the law, that's a value to you, something you consider important, right?
Yeah.
And back that up with evidence. Like, for example, I interned at this law office. I remember reading law tomes when I was a child, stuff like that. If you can back it up, then I think it's okay, but I don't think it's great. I think it's probably going to come across as a little bit generic because if you're applying to law school, how many people do you think will talk about I'm passionate about the law?
Basically everybody.
Right. So is that really separating you?
Not really. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Do you want to give another one a shot?
I feel like my essays mostly right now perspective. So I'm a first generation college student. I'm a Latina woman.
Yes.
Only 2% of lawyers in America
Yes.
are Latina women.
No, not just that, just being a first generation college student, right? I mean, that obviously gives you a unique perspective because I can guarantee you at some law school, I mean, this is just off the top of my head, 80% probably have parents who are college educated, 90% maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely that would be a good, unique perspective. But value, of course, means what you care about. And if you say I care about the law, I'm just not sure that separates you from the pack.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I definitely have to give it more thought.
Okay, no worries. All right, let's do one more. We got Cameron. Hey, Cameron.
Yeah, hey Greg. Hey, just a real quick question. If you are going about like a graduate program from a non-traditional background, do you think it's better to lean into that? Or do you think it's better to kind of shy away from it because it might come across as like flip-floppy?
I think it would be good if it gives you a unique perspective. Can you give me a more kind of specific example? What kind of program are you going into? What is your background?
Yeah, my undergraduate degree is in biology. And then like a year after I graduated, I've been working as an environmental scientist and I got involved in like math and statistics. And so then I went back as a non-matriculated student and basically did like 10 or 12 math classes.
So are you transitioning into more of a mathematics degree?
Yeah, I will be a master's in stats.
Well, then of course, if you don't write a paragraph about your biology and environmental background, then that is a huge wasted opportunity. Because think about this, how many people in this math program are going to come from biological backgrounds?
Yeah, probably a few.
Maybe even zero, right? So yeah, so definitely you want to write a paragraph about that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, let's give this one more shot. So here's another prompt, everybody. So the prompt says, Tuck students recognize how their individuality adds to the fabric of Tuck. Tell us who you are. Now, you might think that this one is the same as the one before, but I would argue it's different. Because this one is not specifically saying, what is your perspective, what is your value? It's more saying, what makes you different? And that could be anything, right? So it seems like this one you have a little bit more freedom. You just have to make sure you identify things that make you the same or make you different. What do you think? I'm a college-educated white male applying to an MBA program. Boom, take that, Harvard. Would that be a good paragraph? No, that'd be terrible, right? So you have to identify maybe 2 to 4 things that make you different. Okay, I'll give you guys 3 minutes. Remember, you have more freedom here. You don't have to just talk about values and perspectives. 3 minutes. Okay, looks like we have a volunteer with Maggie. Hey, Maggie, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So, remember, you have freedom here. I mean, if you want to do 2 body paragraphs, 4 body paragraphs, maybe even 1 body paragraph, it's kind of up to you. So, how would you organize this?
I was thinking kind of saying how I'm trilingual.
Okay, I
Um,
like it. That's a good paragraph.
okay, and then I'm also like Chinese American, so can I kind of bring that? Should I like make that into like a separate category in itself,
It
or
depends. I mean, are they different? I mean, trilingual, obviously you speak English. I'm guessing Mandarin. What's the third one?
Cantonese?
Cantonese, yeah. To me, it
Uh-huh.
would be difficult for that not to sound like overlap.
Right.
So
Okay.
you would have to be careful. The fact that you're Chinese American, is it different than the fact that you're trilingual? Like, what would you say in addition?
Um, oh, like you mean like my second reason?
No, kind of like, let's imagine you have a paragraph about you being trilingual. You also
Right.
have a paragraph about the fact that you're Chinese American.
Uh-huh.
What would you add to this paragraph that kind of makes it stand on its own?
Um, I would say like I kind of like maybe like I grew up, like at home I have like a Chinese like, like kind of like values
Hmm.
that at home I need to kind of like, follow, but then when it comes to, like social life and stuff and school, that's totally different.
Okay, so you're almost like being torn between two cultures, or kind of
Right.
like a tug of war.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. So if you frame it like that, I feel like it could stand as its own paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. But
And then,
I would also notice both of these are connected to your ethnicity and your kind of ancestry, right?
right.
Which is a little bit limiting in the sense that we're trying to show you who you are as an individual.
Right.
So you do need to have something that is specific to Maggie. What
Yeah.
makes Maggie a weirdo in a good way?
Um, I have like my third reason is that so I'm finishing up my biology degree and I'm applying to pathology programs.
Hmm.
And what are like my biggest like attributes that I could kind of like that really like differentiate me from other um you know people that apply to the program is that like I my job is to like right now I have a job that I tutor organic chemistry to fellow college students.
Hmm.
So like do you think that's a good
I don't.
like
No, I don't.
no?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
And I don't think
So
you do either. You know why? It took you about 2 minutes to say it. You know what I mean? Notice
Yeah,
when you said I'm trilingual, boom, how many words was it?
3 words.
Yeah, like I am
Okay.
trilingual. You were very confident in it, right?
Right.
But in that third reason, the fact that it took so long to get out, I don't even think you're confident in it.
Right.
What
Okay.
makes Maggie Maggie?
Um,
The fact that you tutor college students, I don't think makes Maggie Maggie.
okay. Right. Okay. I'm a first gen college student.
Okay, you could do that. You could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, the only problem is that hinges on your parents. The fact that you're
Right.
trilingual hinges on your parents. The fact that you're Chinese American hinges on your parents.
Right.
Try to think of something that really makes you you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm not saying you have to say it right now. Obviously, think about it, right?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, try to get the third or fourth thing that really separates you from the pack.
Okay, thank you. I have another question.
Sure.
Earlier, I think it was Jacqueline, I don't remember. She was saying how she's a first gen college student like for the previous prompt, and you kind of like tie in how you were trying to say how like she's also a first gen college student. How would that kind of be like a unique value or like bring
Not a unique value, but a unique perspective. Because
Okay.
if you imagine how I grew up, where my parents were college educated, and my mom took education quite seriously. The way
Okay.
that I grew up is probably going to be quite different than the way that maybe Jacqueline grew up in terms of just just the conversations. Or I don't want to sound pretentious or elitist or anything. I'm just kind of guessing here. But like for example, when I was a kid, college was expected. It was like, no,
Right.
you're going to college, that kind of thing. So I think that would give a first gen college student kind of a unique perspective because they're going to grow up a little bit differently, right?
Right.
That's kind of what I was getting at there.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Ankit. Hey, Ankit.
Hey, hello.
Hey.
Can I start?
Sure. Yeah. What makes Ankit Ankit?
Yes. So first point, I would say that I like to complete projects without the time limits.
Okay. Fair enough. At least you're saying I like, which means it's kind of a personal thing. So you like to complete projects that take a long time.
Yes, without time limits, basically.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Like basically, if in college also we are given any project, so if time limit is given, so we can't put all our efforts and all our skills in
That's not an
that
example.
project. Uh,
So if
I
you
think
can't
I
even come up with an example, do you really like to complete projects with no time limits? I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I'm just saying, right? You should be able to rattle off like 3 to 4 examples, right? Project number 1, project number 2, project number 3, like that.
yes, I have the name of projects, but of the school of the college of the program which I am pursuing.
Yeah, but that's not really describing who you are. That's just describing your homework. Like, let's say in your free time, you have spent the last 6 years restoring an old Corvette. Wouldn't that be a good example that you like to do projects with no time limit?
Oh, yes.
For you, it's not about the achievement of the task, it's about the process, right? And then I feel like this essay is already writing itself. We're so fixated on the end goal. We're so fixated on the finish line. We're so fixated on what we can show people, what we've achieved. What we neglect is the journey. See how it writes itself? There you go, paragraph 1.
Okay. Second, I would say that I need sports as well as academics both. I can't be only academics focused.
So you're addicted to sports.
Yes, I need sports as well as both.
Okay, all right. I mean, that
with
does
academics.
make, I mean, that, I guess that makes you. Okay, addicted to sports. Specifically, which one?
At the present time, I badminton,
Okay,
but in the school time, I used to play basketball.
okay, fair enough. And then what else makes Ankit?
And one last point which I have written is related to academics that what I have done in my academics career.
Yeah, but I mean, does that highlight your individuality? You see what I'm saying?
Okay, means more person can be with my same academic.
Sure.
skill.
I think you're going to have a lot of people who have the exact same academic credentials. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So thank you for volunteering. So let's talk about the main takeaway. Is this easier than you think it is or harder than you think it is? It's harder, right? But it's also more fruitful. You guys see what I'm saying? What makes you, you? Right? What makes you, you? Saying I did well in school doesn't make you, you, right? Sally said, can you talk about anything at all? Sure. Like, so for example, I thought the fact that we had a previous student coming from an African background, I thought that was very individualistic because how many people at an MBA program come from Africa? I guess my assumption would be not that many, right? Talking about, something like volunteering at a soup kitchen every day. You know what I mean? I'm a saxophonist. Yeah, saxophonist would be a good example. Yeah, for sure. I've played saxophonist for like 20 years. Something like that. If you look at it as a percentage of the population, what percentage of the population plays the saxophone? Is it greater than 1% or less than 1%? If we had 100 people, random people in a room, how many of them would play the saxophone? My guess would be 1, maybe 0, right? So I think that would be a good paragraph because it's highlighting the individuality. What about if you say, I play the piano? Yeah. What about if you say, I participate in national competitions for the piano? Would that be good? Yeah, for sure. How many people participate in national competitions for the piano? Not many, right? So the key idea here, everybody, is you have to highlight things that really show who you are, right? Okay. All right, I'm going to take one question, and then we're going to move on to the new content. Hey, Diana, question?
Greg, but if you don't have anything specific, like if you don't play,
I refuse to believe that there's nothing specific and unique about you, Diana. I refuse. You cannot convince me. You cannot convince me that there's nothing unique about you.
Okay, so where should I look like? Should I look like my character traits, like something specific about me? Like, I don't even know what.
What separates you from the pack?
Trilingual.
Oh, there you go. One paragraph about your language abilities. That's it? That's the only thing that makes you unique? The fact that you're trilingual?
I don't play any instrument. I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so maybe today's lesson will help you think of something else, okay?
Okay, and another thing, can you lie or you have to be
No.
honest?
So what a great segue. It almost sounds like I set that up, everybody. So today's lesson is the following. Be honest, be vulnerable. So thank you for that perfect segue, Diana. We appreciate it very, very much. All right. It is a personal statement, after all. I mean, they have that word personal in there for a reason, right? Aren't you supposed to show who you are as a person? So I don't have any evidence about this. It's just my hypothesis. I suspect that adcoms, those of us in the industry, we don't say admissions committees, we say adcoms. It's very cool. I suspect that adcoms develop a nose for BS after reading hundreds of personal statements and statements of purpose each year. What that means is, if you lie, I suspect that it's quite evident, in my opinion. Many admissions consultants sell you on the idea that your essay has to pop, that ideas have to be exaggerated, that you must appear infallible. My opinion of that is, what a joke. All right, so I'm going to present a couple of case studies to you. So case study number 1, okay? Case study number 1. You have to admit that you're human. Are you guys familiar with this TV show? Every single one of these characters is ingrained in our memories. And is it because they're perfect or because they're not perfect? It's because they are not perfect. None of these characters are. Let's talk about Ross. Ross is good at relationships or terrible? Terrible, okay? Confident or insecure? Okay, is he whiny or not whiny? Extremely whiny, right? Extremely whiny, okay? Is he irritable or not irritable? Much like his sister, Monica, he's quite irritable. Remember when he was living with Chandler and Joey and kept on telling them to be quiet? Keep it down, everybody. Is he nerdy or not nerdy? He's nerdy, right? Is he a mama's boy or not a mama's boy? Is he a mama's boy or not a mama's boy? He's a mama's boy. Let's talk about Rachel. Okay? So Rachel grew up rich. What are some of Rachel's flaws? Yep, she's a pushover. Yep, she's a pushover. Head in the clouds. Yep, you could probably describe Phoebe that way as well. Shallow or not shallow? Quite shallow. Do you guys remember when she dated Tag, her younger assistant? Good old Tag. The only reason she dated Tag is because of his personality or because he was young and handsome? Young and handsome, right? Let's talk about Chandler. What are some of Chandler's flaws? Number 1, he's addictive. He has addictive personality. He's addicted to smoking. Number 2, he has a damaged childhood. Number 3, he hates commitment. He cannot commit. It's very, very difficult for him. Very, very difficult for him. Can he ever be serious? Can he ever take a situation seriously? Or does he always have to crack a joke? Always has to crack a joke. Always has to crack a joke. And then finally, let's talk about Monica. What are some of Monica's flaws? She's ultra competitive. Ultra competitive. She has to control everything. She's a control freak. She also has to be like the center of attention, because every time there's a party, she wants the party to be at her house, or she wants to be in control of the party, right? She's a perfectionist. So notice, Friends is a beloved TV show. I like Friends. I enjoy watching Friends. I imagine a lot of you enjoy watching Friends. We like these characters. And, think about it. When you like a character, it's not just the fact that you like them. It's also the fact that you enjoy complaining about them. Isn't that part of the fun? Ross is such a whiny baby. Rachel is such a shallow person. Chandler is so damaged, can take nothing seriously. Monica's so neurotic. Isn't that part of the fun? So, hopefully you guys understand what I'm getting at here. It's a personal statement. You have to highlight some of your flaws. You have to highlight the fact that you're human. In my opinion, so many personal statements don't do this. So many personal statements just get into I'm perfect, I'm amazing, I've never made a mistake, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Diana says, what's whiny? Whiny means almost like a crybaby. Kind of like, oh man, like Ross is always doing that. Ross is always a big crybaby. Okay, let's look at another case study. So this is a case study from Star Wars. I want you to compare these two characters. Okay, I want you to compare these two characters. And I want you to compare these two characters. So this was a comparison that was actually made by Red Letter Media about the Star Wars prequels, which I thought was amazing. He did an experiment, and he said, describe Princess Leia. And then everyone would describe her. She's headstrong, she's stubborn, she has an attitude, she's independent, and they just rattled off all these character traits. And then he showed a picture of Princess Padme, and they said, describe her character trait. And they couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Describe Princess Padme's character traits. She's beautiful. See how difficult it is? See how difficult it is? Same thing here. Describe Han Solo. Right? He's a rebel. He is irreverent. He doesn't take things seriously. He's very independently minded. He's extremely confident. Do you remember when Princess Leia said to Han Solo, I love you? And then his response was, I know. One of the greatest movie lines ever. Right? Describe this guy. I don't even know his name. What's this guy's name from the prequels? I don't even know this guy's name. It's very difficult to come up with character traits of this guy. And then finally, we know that this guy on the right is evil. But we have no idea why he's evil. Right? It's boring. It's one note. It's one note. However, Darth Vader had a very damaged childhood. He was abandoned as a kid. He had his love taken from him. He was manipulated by the Emperor. It's a much more complex, involved backstory. And as a result, my hypothesis is, I could be wrong, my hypothesis is when it comes to remembering Star Wars characters, who do we remember more? The original characters. Which movies are more beloved? The original movies. Why is that? Because George Lucas and Disney did not have their hands all over them. Which is what happened to the two most recent trilogies, in my opinion. Finally, case study number 3. If you're not convinced, are you guys aware of a TV show called Breaking Bad? Okay. Some people claim that this is the greatest TV show ever made. Do you know why? Is it because of the story? No. In my opinion, it's because of the characters. Every single one of these characters is memorable in their own way. Walter White, Jesse, the wife. What's the wife's name? Man, Reddit did not like her. Yeah, Skylar. Mike, Hank, right? They're all Gus, Lydia, Marie, Saul Goodman, even Todd. So, in my opinion, the genius of Breaking Bad, the genius of, I think the creator, his name is Vince Gilligan or something. The genius is in the characters. All of these characters are very memorable. All of these characters are flawed. So, for example, Walter White. What would you say Walter White's biggest flaw is? In my opinion, it's ego. It's ego. Isn't ego his downfall? You know, he had his rich friend offer to pay for his cancer treatment, and it would be completely on the house, which means Walter White would never have to make drugs or brew drugs, but his ego got in the way. What is Jesse's biggest flaw? The ability to be manipulated. The ability to be manipulated. Right there. So as you can see, all of these right here, all of these people, all of these characters have a flaw. In my opinion, that makes for a much better personal statement. Finally, case study number 4. What's your character arc? Good narratives see the characters change. In Harry Met Sally, Harry started out as a guy completely cynical about love. A man who stated it was impossible for a man and a woman to be friends because the other thing always gets in the way. I'll let you use your imagination about the other thing. He then became best friends with that woman, real friends, no ulterior motives, so he changed. He actually went against his original thesis. And then finally, he fell in love with that woman and saw his cynicism wither away. Throughout this movie, which is a beloved movie, by the way, many people love the movie When Harry Met Sally, did the character played by Billy Crystal change? Did the character have a character arc? Have you guys seen this movie? Right? So, what does that mean about your... Oh, we have a question from Jainam. Hey, Jainam.
Yes, Greg, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, fine. I just wanted to ask that what is should we present an essence of our flaws, or in each paragraph should we write about our flaws?
That gets into that gets into the organization aspect of it. You certainly don't want the whole thing to be about your flaws, but you want the thing to be human. You want the thing to be human. And let me kind of give you an example here. Okay, let's look at a prompt. So let's say we have the prompt, what do you hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA? Tell me what's more powerful. I hope from the Wharton MBA to gain network connections that will allow me to leverage my career in the financial industry in order to achieve my career goals. Currently, although I make a decent salary, no, scratch that, I actually make a lot of money. I make so much money, it puts me in the top 1% of Americans' income. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. I go home every day miserable. I feel stagnant. I look at my career prospects and they seem limited. I feel like I've hit my plateau. Which one of those narratives is more powerful? In my opinion, I would argue the second one. Now, I'm not an expert about this. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm not an expert about personal statements. I'm not an admissions consultant. But to me, I feel like admitting some flaws or admitting some stagnation or admitting some doubts and some concerns about your life, to me, I feel like that makes for a better personal statement. Am I making sense? I don't know. Am I making sense? Hopefully I am. So let me kind of give you a true like anecdote from my own life, right? So I was a teacher, and I felt like teaching in the education system as it's currently set up was not satisfying to me, because you charge students exorbitant rates. You have to mostly follow a curriculum that is given to you. You're not given a lot of freedom and latitude. Much of the structure doesn't allow for any flexibility. So like experimentation about what actually allows people to learn and stuff like that. And then maybe most cynically, it seems like the main goal of a lot of educational programs is to have students enter, pay their money, graduate, have more students enter, pay their money, graduate, have more students enter, pay their money, graduate. To me, I feel like something's missing from this. I feel like we're missing the educational aspect. Are we actually teaching these people the skills and the techniques and the things that they need in order to be successful in whatever it is they're trying to do. I'll give you an example. In my opinion, in an American company, it's quite difficult for someone to be successful if they have bad grammar or if they're a bad writer, especially like a white-collar company, right? If you're writing emails to bosses and to executives and those emails contain a lot of grammar mistakes and stuff like that, so then I'm asking myself, are we teaching these students how to write emails and letters and essays and compositions that don't have grammar mistakes? Even something as fundamental as that, it seems like the answer is no, we're not. So do you see how I'm setting this up? I'm saying I was not satisfied with the status quo. What I hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA is A, B, and C, which I think will allow me to affect positive change in D, E, and F. Does that make sense? So do you see how it's kind of admitting some vulnerability? It's admitting the fact that there is some anxiety and some lack of happiness with the status quo, and then hopefully the Wharton MBA will allow me to, in some small part, affect change on that. Okay? So let's look at one more example, but I'm going to have you guys think about this one. Prompt number 2. What from your past made you decide to go into this field? And how will your personal history help you succeed in this program and your future goals? Let's just start with this one right here. What from your past made you decide to go into this field? Does it have to be a sad memory? Does it have to be about the time your dog died? Yes or no? No, it does not. But does it have to be honest? Yes. Okay, everyone, think about this for 2 minutes. What made you want to go into this field? Be honest about it. Try to be a little bit vulnerable too. 2 minutes.